How's it going, humans? In this episode of HewTube, we're gonna take some wood and turn it into mushrooms. Come check it out. So the first step in this process is to cut down our wood. So we're going to be using maple for the bases and African padauk for the top of these little mushrooms. So I started by rough cutting and rough squaring the maple on the miter saw. Now this might not be the most proper way to square an edge, but it worked, and that's what matters. Next, I went over to the table saw, and with my nicely squared edge, I was able to rip down these little mushroom bases to be about 2" by 2" square, which is gonna be just perfect. Next, I used a really janky compass. Man, I should really get a new compass. Like, I think I'm using masking tape to hold this thing together. Oh, anyways. So yeah, using my janky compass, I traced out some circles, and this was gonna be the size of our mushroom tops. Pretty simple so far, right? Next, I had to dig out my bandsaw because I had a lot of sheet goods in front of it for some upcoming projects. One is a leather side table hutch that I'm working on, and the other is the Maker Collab board game table. So if you want to find out more about those, come stalk my Instagram. That's the place where you're going to find out the most about everything I have going on currently, or in the past, depending on when you're watching this video. So now that I've been able to find my bandsaw again, I cut out some rough circles. Next, I drilled a hole with a 1¼ inch, 1/8 Forstner bit, which I didn't even need to do, but I did it and I filmed it, so here it is. Now at the top all chucked up on the lathe, the first thing to do is to give it a rough turn, because you can see this little wobble that it has. Now with it spinning a little more true, I turned a, what are these called? A thing? So I can't remember what the actual term for the little, grabby thing that the scroll chuck is gonna attach to is. Like a tenon? Oh, a tenon! It's a tenon! I think it's a tenon. Oh, I got excited. If it's not a tenon, then let me know in the comments what it's really called, because from now on, it's going to be called a tenon. That's how that works. So now with my piece turned around and attached via the tenon, it better be a tenon. Oh man, if this isn't a tenon, I'm going to get roasted in these comments. Ah well, at least it's a comment. Next, I used my Forstner bit and just wanted to make sure that this hole was perfectly centered. I probably didn't need to drill it out on the drill press earlier, but, order of operations sometimes gets me. So with that hole taken care of, the next thing I did might shock some people. So now I'm using a 1" bullnose router bit, and I'm doing this to give a nice rounded profile to the inside of this mushroom top. I know, this just seems weird and wild, but it worked. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you it working because apparently I don't know which button on the camera to press to make it record, and I turned it off instead of turning it on. So, it's the way life goes sometimes. So the fun thing about turning mushrooms is you can make them kind of any shape, style, and aesthetic that you want. There's no real rules, so just kind of go with your gut and make it into a cute little mushroom. So now with the top done, I chucked up the base, and the reason that I like to do the top first is it gives me that outside diameter for the base. So just working really carefully around the top portion where the opening's going to be, just to slowly turn that down just so it's almost the right size. Now, as you can see, I drilled out the inside and used that 1" bullnose router bit again. This time you got to see it. You're welcome. It's so much better than having that square, flat bottom that the Forstner bit leaves with that little hole in the middle. You know, from that little spur. It's a pretty cool trick. I came up with it myself, and I'm quite proud. The next thing I had to take care of was turning the bottom of this mushroom down. So this is where these expandable collets are just amazing. I will leave a link in the description for them. They're great. I found them on Lee Valley's website, and it was kind of an impulse purchase, but one that I'm really glad that I made, because I don't know how else I would have been able to do this. So it really shows that getting the right tool for the job makes your life a whole lot easier. So there we go, a little mushroom box. So you can see a little ring around there from that collet, but that's okay. It's gonna sand out in about 30 seconds. Little tight. Oops. So as you can see, it is a little bit snug, which is exactly what I want. I didn't want to sand it down or turn it down too far on the lathe because it's just too easy to go a little too far, a little too deep. So this is where that finishing touch and that hand sanding comes into play. And when you do enough of it, sometimes it just turns into fuck you sanding. And that's what I call this position right here. Fuck you sanding. I don't know why, but it's funny. So with everything thoroughly hand sanded, hours and hours of meticulous hand sanding and fitting later, we get the most satisfying popping noise. That was me doing it. That was like my mouth, not the mushroom. This is the mushroom. Perfect. Now the last step in the process is to apply a finish. I am using a Walrus oil for this, but don't worry, it doesn't contain real walruses, apparently. I read the box. It promises that it doesn't include walrus, which kind of makes me sad. Kind of like the protection of a walrus with those big toothy fangs. I'd feel safe. So this is one of those rub it on, wait 15 minutes, and rub it off finishes. You can do it on the lathe as well, but these weren't on the lathe, so I'm doing it by hand at the workbench, such is life. Oh no! I think it's okay. It's okay. I bounced it like 4 times and then off my boot. But it's okay. It's good. It's good. Okay. That was close. You're not gonna tell the client about that, right? Like that can be our little secret, right? Please don't tell them. Okay, deal. Good. So set these aside and wait 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll buff it. Now I'm wearing a hat. There it is. It's like cleaning earwax, but nicer. It's slippery. Mushroom! Haha! Upside down mushroom. So there we go. That's how you make a mushroom. So thanks for sticking around and checking out this video. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you next time. Oh, and be careful on the lathe, because sometimes things can explode. Don't worry, I'm fine. The mushroom not so much, but I'm fine.